All right, we're going to go ahead and start. So for those of you who have joined today's meeting, we want to say thank you so much for taking your time to tune in and enjoy an exploration of this specific origin, the coffee, and the remarkable story of the community and the women who produce it. I'm merely making an introduction. We have the opportunity to have a dear friend and colleague, Arthur, who is in Rwanda today. We go back about a decade. I give him credit for teaching me a lot about not only the country of Rwanda, but the people. A few of us have made many, many trips there and are deeply tied to the story and communities. So with that, I'm going to actually ask Arthur to give, he's going to lead us through this, help translate for the women of the cooperative, who are the most important people we're going to meet today, and tell us a little bit about the story of the origin, Rwanda, where is it? Why is coffee important there? And this remarkable story of courage of the women here who we have the incredible opportunity to help get their coffee to a marketplace. So with that said, Arthur, I'd like to turn it over to you. Oh, a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you who have questions, please go ahead and enter them in. Jolene is going to manage the questions in our chat box. We'll probably hold all the questions till the end of the presentation. We're going to make sure there's ample time for you to ask questions. You can ask them directly. We will get them translated to the women to hear any of the background stories or information you want. And hopefully everybody gets everything they want out of this. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Arthur.
One more quick thing. This webinar will be recorded, so you can go onto our website and it will be on our blog if you've missed anything. If there's any questions that do not get answered from the chat box with the Q&A at the end, we'll make sure that we reach out to all of you. But we're super excited to have Arthur and the women from Hingakawa. So thank you.
Arthur, over to you, my friend.
So much, guys. Thanks for the introduction. And you, as appropriately mentioned, you know, I'm going to get out of the way of the real story, and that is these two incredible women. I wish I could have brought all 729 of their, you know, sisters to this room, but I was lucky to get Jacqueline and Chrissy. Jacqueline sitting right next to me here on the left, and Christy right there to my further left. And you'll get to talk to them a lot more and engage in conversation with them a lot more in a few minutes. But extremely humbled, as always, to be amongst them. I have had the fortune to work alongside them, but more importantly, I've had the incredible humility and words don't begin to express enough to learn from them, to personally heal from them as well. Yeah. I would actually be bullish enough to say this country has been responsible. I mean, has been healed by the people on my left here. So I'm just incredibly happy to have a conversation on this exploration platform that you have set up here, Craig, to be able to be with them. So we'll roll through these slides. Keep it short. Like I said, I want to get out of the way of the true story and just make a quick introduction, as Craig has requested. Yeah. You capture just a little bit about, you know, the exploration.
So Arthur, before we jump into the exploration of the country, you got to have 1 minute to, you know, you're from Rwanda, you grew up there. You do need to mention that this is your home country. You were there as a young boy and through the genocide. And I don't want to tell your own story, but it's important for people to know that this is your homeland. You've been in coffee, you know, your life. You see it as a pathway to heal and introduce the people who work so hard to transform their lives through it. But I wanted people to know you're not just a colleague we met in coffee.
Wow. Like I said, I could take hours talking about that piece, but I will give you a snapshot. But yes, I am from Rwanda, but I would be amiss to say that I am a child of East Africa as well, because I was born a refugee in the 3 countries that surround Rwanda. And we wish, my family and I wish we didn't have to leave Rwanda and be refugees outside of Rwanda, but such was the case. But in hindsight, those that life of a refugee chiseled me to what I am today.
Mhm.
Really, the reason why I do what I do today.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was born without, an identity, and so were hundreds and thousands of other people who left. But lots of people forget that the genocide did not just start in 1994. It's a culmination of things that started in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And so, and coffee has a role that plays in it that you will see in a little bit. But anyhow, I've been in coffee all my life, not because I love coffee, but actually because I detested coffee. I disliked coffee, not its taste, but the responsibility it had and it has in either stitching fabrics in the community or tearing them apart.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to just make sure that coffee plays its due role as well to heal the country. And so I've worked for years to figure out how to, and I found it in the world of traceability. And to me, traceability is not just a technical term. It's it's a chain of custody process that captures, preserves, and identifies our identity, which, in my opinion, is yours and I's most valuable asset.
Right. With that said, an introduction, let's go through your slides that tell us about the country, the origin, and coffee, and then we'll have the women tell their story through your translation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can go to the next slide, which, just again gives a little introduction to the fact that we always talk about in most origins that, it's more than the coffee. I think everybody who's in coffee for as long as they've been will always say, okay, I see the light now. It's more than the coffee. And this statement that was uh, very softly but yet very powerfully expressed to me by uh, Baneshi was something I'll never forget. And so I wrote it down, and I felt like everyone in Rwanda that experienced the genocide in their own form or fashion um, has something to say that would express these terms in um,
Yeah.
how they're perfectly articulated.
Yeah.
And a lot of time drowning your sorrows, but somehow you just can't get through and past them. But I started with this slide and started this statement because it's appropriate to remind everyone that I know every origin will say this and everyone will experience these terms by saying it's more than the coffee.
Mhm.
But I can't express enough how in this country they got into coffee and fortunately came out with an exceptional cup of coffee. But
Yeah.
the reason getting into this coffee was more therapeutic than anything else.
Yeah.
I'll go to the next slide.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you a quick glimpse of a few of the women. Now, I'm the last one to usually portray images without context. Every time I have an image, whether it's in my work or what have you, whether I'm presenting to anyone, that is, I always like to give a backdrop and context of what they are looking at to reduce as much self-interpretation as I can, not to ruin the experience for whoever is looking at an image, but in the context of the continent I come from, too many stories have been told, not by the people themselves. And so I like to give context to an image in a country that most people have never experienced, been, or maybe understand that what you see around you is not everything you think it is. The smiles, the beauty, the look may be surrounded by what may seem very impoverished, but there is beauty in the eye of the beholder, and I always want to always express that in the image of folks. And so I just want to give you a glimpse of these incredible, beautiful women that I get the fortune to work alongside. We'll go to the next slide. And then, of course, we always talk about origin, and I'm sure everyone who is in every part of the industry in coffee will always, talk about the well, and that is origin. And origin to me is really a collection of sights and sounds that ultimately become narratives. Narratives of how we sell the coffee, narratives of how we educate our consumers, narratives of how we protect our brand or speak to our brand and its relationship. But this should actually stimulate deeper conversations about what is truly coffee's understory, and then that is its people. Not only those who consume it, but those who also produce it.
Mhm.
I rattled a few, fun facts there about Rwanda for a few folks. Craig had asked me that, he's got a pretty wide audience of folks who may never been, never have heard of, or, want to experience Rwanda. So what you see in the bag or behind the bag of a Rwandan coffee, may not give you the color that makes Rwanda what it is. But these are a few kind of things that, I like to just throw out to let people know just about the diversity of the country.
Thank you.
Yeah, here's another little eyesore, but to your left there, really, I wanted to give a glimpse of the coffee and people history in context of, where we came from, and to give a little color context on where we are today as a country. But on the left there, you see a bunch of dots in Rwanda, and those dots represent, just a net of washing stations around the country. And that'll make sense here in a few minutes. But starting in 1930, obviously, we talked about when coffee was introduced. And I had the word forcibly in that box. I probably typed and deleted that word probably 10 or 12 times. But I wanted to not make a broad brushstroke about this because it's so important to the context. Because when coffee was introduced, it had kind of three laws that, in my opinion, was the beginning of the us and them, and the visceral language, and the process of what ended up in 1994. So as you can see, it was simply you must grow, you must never uproot, and you must never consume. And every day from that on, half a century of low quality and low price trap created that poverty trap. It was a perfect ingredient for a perfect storm. And of course, until one day, enough was enough. And animosity and visceral language and hate and distance and the separation of homogeneous groups created what is the fastest genocide never seen. I call it the fastest genocide never seen because it was a blink of an eye.
Mhm.
I don't think the world had enough time to react. Yes, there was ample warning signs, but nobody believed that 1 million lives could be eradicated in 100 days. And not a gunshot, not a mushroom cloud bomb, or what have you. Meticulous macheteing of people. And of course, because of this, we were at as bottom as it gets. And so we chose to emerge with many strategies beyond infrastructure, but also socially as a people. And I'll focus on just coffee here for now, but we emerged to leverage an economic tool that would get people back together through a cooperative systems. We have an old court system here called the gacaca system that is so traditional, but so so impactful. It works. It works more than the international tribunal that's going on in Tanzania next door. It is a system that allows the perpetrator and the survivor to look eye to eye, and the perpetrator is able to give closure and healing to the survivor by expressing how they killed their family members, and more importantly, where they buried them, so that, or where they did it, so that they can have closure of having a ceremonious and burial, but also more importantly, have closure in a community service that the perpetrator will do. It's traditional. It sounds out of left field, but the impact has been incredible. But to do that, we had to come together. And nothing brings people together, even in the consuming world, like coffee. You don't have to come together to just consume it. It brings you together to also grow it, to also clean it together, to also wash it together, to also sort it together. And ever since that day, coffee in Rwanda has been, processed for over 20 years now, and has had an acute leap from 3 wet mills to over 220 wet mills in just 5 years. Now, that may have been too acute of a growth to manage or to handle for anyone or any country that has never been in the specialty industry. And yes, we've had our cons about that, but I think beyond coffee, it has brought people together at alarming rates that never saw eye to eye for centuries, for decades, sorry. So at the centerpiece of that were women, because most of the men were in prison, dead, or in exile. So women garnered the strength and courage to champion a nation's restoration through coffee. They chose a once familiar foe in coffee in the 1930s and beyond to stitch back the fabric of our nation together. This is why these are my heroes, you see right here.
Yes.
So,
Emotional stories. All right, let's hear about the women.
yes, simply. So again, this is a quick slide to highlight a little bit about the cooperative. Hingakawa, again, the interpretation just straight up is let's grow coffee. Now you might shrug your shoulders and say, okay, that's great. But it's not as simple and straightforward as it sounds. The power lies in the proverbial meaning. It is a post-genocide war cry to all who are broken, wounded, and scarred to come together and connect. What was once an act of courageous small group of women, about 18 of them, has now come to be about 960 women in the cooperative. They're up in beautiful rolling hills. I'm sure most of you on this call have been to this country. Breathtaking. I am from here, but every corner I take, I still pause. And of course, just the flora and fauna is just a perfect bedrock for this product. We've got 2 predominant varieties. Bourbon takes the lead, and Jackson varieties are now, really helping with having diversity. And of course, everything is hand selected, hand sorted, hand picked, and on the raised African drying beds. And it is here where patience and care really connect, and connection really starts to happen. So between the months of March and June, where we're knee deep in the season, like I said, it's something special that's happening during that time. Beyond the season, it's really not about the coffee, and I just can't wait for you to hear a little bit about them. So over to them, and let me know where to start.
I think if you have the women tell us their story of their role in the cooperative and the network of the cooperative, how they work together, a few facts of how much coffee they produce, but really more intimately, what does it mean to them and their families? Have them share, Arthur, and then you can translate, and then I'm sure we're going to have tons of questions.
Great, absolutely. Sasa turashaka kutangira nibwire uriwe icyo ukora kuri koperative umuryango wanyu, hanyuma mureke undi nawe avuge. Ujya guhora nanjye muri umwanya kubabwira. Tangire na nawe.
Nitwa Jacqueline Nyirandimubanzi, ndi umubyeyi mfite umugabo n'abana babiri.
My name is Jackie, and I'm a mother, a wife, and I have 2 children.
Mfite imyaka 39, nkaba mpagarariye Association Hingakawa.
I'm 36 years of age, and I now the president of the Hingakawa Association of Women.
Excellent.
Okay.
Nitwa Imana Izabarera Christelle,
Her name is
ndi umubyeyi nkaba ndi umubyeyi w'abana batatu, mfite umugabo ndubatse, nkaba ndi umwanditsi Hingakawa.
Her name is Chrissy, and she's also married with abana batatu, with 3 children.
Okay.
I love what she said. Instead of saying, you know, she has a family and a home, she says, I'm the breadwinner, and she's also a member of the cooperative.
Excellent.
Sorry, the secretary.
How about a little bit about their own particular production on their own space, and then the cooperative overall?
Absolutely, yeah. So mwebwe muhagariye muhinga gute, mufite ibiti bingahe, hanyuma niturangiza mwembi tuvugeho kuri koperative ukuntu namwe
twebwe ku giti cyacu mu miryango yacu, njyewe ubwanjye Jacqueline, njyewe mfite ikawa 898 ibiti 898 140.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah.
So for her, she has 1,468 trees. Just her. And you could tell how much pride she had in saying that. And I probably want to ask her, where did she start before then? But we'll get to that. She has 450 trees.
Okay.
So you can tell the disparity there, but that's the average size of us. I don't think I can even call her a smallholder farmer. I think in Rwanda, because of the laws that you saw in the previous pages, the enactment to grow coffee, whether you liked it or not, we have micro holders here. Which more than smallholders, right? You got 5 trees, 10 trees, 20, 30, 100, 400, and the aggregation and the quality control management of that and the traceability of that is insane. But we'll hear more a little bit about how they manage that.
Yes. Yeah, if they could share a little bit about, you know, where she started. She has 1,400 trees now. For those who don't know, I mean, Rwanda is one of the only places I've been in the world where you count your coffee by the tree, not by the hectare. They're micro lots of farming, but a little bit about the expansion that she's enjoyed and how it helps them to get more productivity and what it does for them and their family.
Watangiriye he ku biti, watangiye tuvuze umaze igihe mu kawa tuvuga imyaka 5 cyangwa iki, wari ufite ibiti bingana gute, none wageze ku watangiriye he nyine?
Ni ukuvuga ngo njye ninjira muri Hingakawa nari umukobwa, kandi kugira ngo winjire muri Hingakawa ugomba kubanza kugira ibiti 100. Iryo 100 niryo nabanje gushaka, niyo mikoro nari mfite.
Okay. Amaze imyaka ingahe? So it's been 13 years ago when she joined Hingakawa.
Okay.
And one of the pioneers, right? And so she said that to get into Hingakawa as a member, you had to have a minimum of 100 trees.
Okay.
And so she worked tirelessly to get to 100 and got to 100 and was excited to get into Hingakawa. And that's what she started with. What time do you feel that?
Igihe muri Hingakawa ndi umuntu n'ukunguko n'utangiye mfite ibiti
50. Ufite umwana uri? Ufite umwana?
Ari mfite umwana.
Okay.
Nubatse mfite urugo.
Okay. Ufite 50. Imyaka ingahe? Yeah, so she also has been about 10 years there, and she started with 50 trees, but she had a child at that time. And so she didn't get in right away until the child was old enough, and then she got another 50 trees. and was able to join the cooperative. And now she's up to 450. Then we asked him about, what that has done to be part of the cooperative. Like, so nyine muvuye ku biti ijana kwinjira muri koperative, ni iki kuba muri iyo koperative cyabafashije kugira inyungu no kugira umusaruro?
ibintu byinshi. Cya mbere ni amahugurwa. Burya yungukiramo mu buryo butandukanye. Ubwo ubumenyi, ariko burya si n'ubumenyi gusa. Iyo ugiye mu mahugurwa bakubwira ibihumbi 3 bya presence, ni urugero, ukarya igihumbi ugacyura 2, nayo ni inyungu. Ayo nayo urayinjiza. Icya kabiri ni uburyo bwo gutuma tugera ahagaragara no kumenyana n'abantu batandukanye. Nta kubeshya, nawe uziranye n'umuntu ukamenyana n'umuntu, wunguka inshuti kandi ukagenda wunguka n'inshuti zikuruta. Kumenyana n'abantu basobanutse, mbega nawe bituma usobanuka.
So the question was, what was the benefit of joining the cooperative? What was the anticipation to get 100 trees, and what did it bring you to join a cooperative? And she said, well, there's numerous things, but off the bat, of course, there is the training to know and understand how to prepare, exceptional coffee, how to grow coffee the right way. It was also a place where you could collect inputs to take back to your farm, and fertilizer and so on. And then she goes, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing was it brought us together to talk to people we would otherwise never wanted to talk to. It brought us healing. It was a place for us, if I could paraphrase it, it was a therapeutic establishment for us to go and heal, to go and talk to the elders and to listen to stories of, why we went through what we went through, and gain wisdom, gain understanding. And through that, we look forward to going to cooperative every time. But she wanted to add one other thing.
Ndashaka kongeraho hari urugendo shuri narwo ni inyungu. Hari uburyo ushobora kubaho utabona n'uburyo ugera ahandi hantu ugomba kubaho muri ako gace gusa. Ariko iyo ubonye urugendo shuri ukajya gusura koperative runaka kandi gace runaka, burya nabyo ni inyungu, kuko ukuyemo kumenya ahandi hantu utari uzi, ukuyemo no kumenya n'inshuti za kure, ikiyongereyeho
So she said that you have to understand one thing. So when you are within a specific part of a community or village, it is very rare that you travel around the country and see other things, and meet other people and learn from other communities. But coffee gave us that capability and capacity to go and learn from others. So we would leave our village and go to other communities and go to other communities in different parts of the country. And it gave us this national passport to go around and see and meet and greet and gain wisdom. And it brought us outside of our communities.
hari n'uburyo ikawa yategurwagamo mbere yaratuvunaga cyane kugira ngo ubone ikawa yumye. Yasabaga ko tugera kubiryabuye tutarabona ziriya mashini koperative itarabaho mbere. Twakoreshaga ibuye ukajonjora bikagera ejo bikakuvuna bikakugora, ariko ubu turasarura igitumbwe cyane bakakwishyura kashi, kandi niba uzana amafaranga y'igitumbwe witegereje neza.
So just the value addition that the cooperative brought them. She said it was so hard to get the cherries and then sit with them, knowing that your collector was going to come, not on time, and they were going to complain about the quality of the cherries, and so they would have to soak them, and sometimes they would have to wash them themselves, and sometimes they would have to use a rock to remove the parchment because of how sometimes most collectors wanted the coffee. It was all just ordinary stuff. And so the cooperative just brought an increasing amount of innovation on how to process and add value to their product that they'd never experienced before.
Arthur, we have a question coming in from the chat box, and I think you just touched on it a little bit, but with the growth of the cooperative from 13 to 960, how do they ensure kind of quality and consistency across the board?
Great, that's a great question. Barabaza ukuntu koperative yatangiye muri bakeya tuvuge batangiye kera bari kuva aho igeze ni iki ni iki rugero mufitiye ngo mukontorole karite yanyu ngo mukomeze ngo murimo gukurana mu bagore mu bantu benshi mu bamambure benshi ubundi arabibaza kubera iyo ugize amamambure menshi mu gihe gito karite iramanuka kubera bibananizwa birashobora kunanirwa kajagari mu mwabigenjeje gute
ni ukuvuga ngo nta banga rindi hari management dufite cyane cyane koperative iradufasha kuba twumvira koperative ikatugira inama igakurikirana ibyacu byose guhera ku kambere ku kanyuma bituma tudashobora guteshuka. Icya kabiri sustainable growers nayo iradufasha kuko ifite field officers bakurikirana by'umwihariko umugore kuri tere. Ntabwo rero ushobora gusubira inyuma hari umuntu uhagaze imbere ureba koko ibyo ukora niba bifite umurongo ntakujya.
Well, there's one thing that really benefits them, and that is the management team and the fact that they have their own internal agronomist who also works with other international body agronomists that are part of the public sector and development agencies around the country that always come and make sure that they have the tools they need, the resources they need, and the information that they need. And usually, she says, people can teach you all you want, all they have, but at the end of the day, you have to implement those things. And so as an organization of women, we have made it a task for us to not be driven by any pity initiative whereby let's buy this coffee because it comes from a group of women, but let's buy this coffee because it's the best in the world. It's the highest quality coffee. So that is why they follow instruction and they implement it, quite disciplinary.
Arthur, how has the cooperative and the women gained the understanding of the differentiation in quality? So obviously, to prosper, they need to sell high quality coffee to get the prices that are sustainable for their living. What are the things specifically that help them know that they're producing high quality coffee?
Yeah. None hari guhinga ikawa hari no kumenya ko mwageze ku ikawa ifite karite yo hejuru. Utayinyoye se mumenye gute ko ari nziza? Kwisa cyangwa niko bababwiye kumeze cyangwa mubimenya gute ko muri ku rugero rwo kuzamura karite buri mwaka?
Nagite ko karite ari nziza.
Cyangwa ukuntu umwaka ushije mwagize karite irushaho. Ni ukuntu igiciro cy'ikawa wahaye cyangwa ni kubera amagronome ababwiye ngo ikawa yanyu yari nziza uyu mwaka cyane n'iki kibabwira?
Ni ukuvuga ngo hari impamvu nyinshi twabimenyamo. Ubwabyo hari uburyo bw'imikorere bugenda butera imbere, niko nabivuga. Uburyo bwo gukorera ikawa bugenda butera imbere. Urabona nk'uyu munsi turi muri gahunda y'ikawa y'imyimerere. Uko biri kose niba izo production turi kugenda tuzikura mu ikawa, sinumva ko ikawa izasubira inyuma mu buryohe. Icyo ni icyambere. Abantu barimo baduhugura baravuga ati ikawa yikorera utya uburyo bugezweho, ukorera ikawa utya ushyiraho ifumbire y'imborera gutya, urwanye udusimba gutya, usasirira igihe gutyo, ikawa uyikurikirane neza. None cyiyongereyeho ni suivi ikorwa. Ikawa yavuye suivi follow up. Suivi ikorwa ikawa yageze ku ruganda.
Okay.
iraheba icya iratoranya iki gihe iki n'iki yumye byari gukirumye neza gutyo gukurikirana urwo ruhererekane ku
Guess it
munsi.
Hey, you open a can of worms here, Greg. She said she started the statement with, "How do we know the coffee is good without tasting it?" Because because look at our development.
Yeah.
Look at how we live now than before. Look at the growth that we're getting with members. There's many occasions that show us that we're doing the right thing and we're following instructions from the agronomists, from mulching, from weeding, using natural ways to fight pests and diseases. And then the most important part, the follow-up at the mill, because most of the women who also work at the mill own the trees, own the coffee. So we make sure that we follow up on our own very product at the mill, because that's where things can go very wrong. And so over and over again, we make sure that year over year, we're seeing the coffee is cleaner. We're seeing the percentages of what we are seeing as Class C is getting smaller and smaller, and so on. So she definitely was very animated about that.
Yeah.
The pride they have in year-over-year improvement on quality.
That's great.
Good.
We have a couple. Yep, we have a couple of more questions that are coming in on the chat box. Are there other activities at the co-op besides the coffee processing that help support the women in the community?
Great question. Hari ibindi mukora mumaze saison
zirangiye
ibyo mukora kampani irangiye, hari ibindi mukora guteza imbere bitajyanye ikawa?
bitajyanye ikawa ni ukuvuga ngo ubu twese turi abahinzi borozi, tujya fumbire tuyigura amatungo, kandi amatungo hari uburyo twagiye tuyaha hagati yacu muri twe twarahererekanyije. Ayo matungo yacu tugomba kuyakurikirana. Hari n'ubuhinzi dukora bwunganira ikawa, kuko amafaranga yose dukuramo ikawa ntitugomba kuyarya. Tugomba no guhinga ibindi tuzarya tukanagurisha ku ruhande byunganira ya mafaranga yo mu ikawa, kuko ikawa ni igihingwa ngandurabukungu. Ifaranga ry'ikawa riritonderwa, ntabwo ari ukurikoresha uko wiboneye. Ariya ni amafaranga akora ibikorwa binini mu muryango.
She said that it all starts with the coffee sales, because that's what gives us the ability to manage the off season and other activities and other sources of income. But it starts with even the pulp that comes out of the cherry. We collect it together. We have a worm pit together. We distribute it together, and it goes into our other food crops as well, that we've seen multiply from that compost to be able to not only have at home, but also to sell the surplus at the marketplace. But it all starts with coffee. And with that marketplace sales, we're able to do things like get a little workshop of sewing machines to do different cloths and curtains for people and sell at the market that meets on Wednesdays and so on. So they germinate different innovative businesses, but it all starts with the byproduct of coffee. So when she goes, coffee takes us from a mile to 100 miles.
Okay. That's great. We have one, we have a couple more questions. I think this is a great question. In a country with such strong female role, what is the role of men in coffee in Rwanda?
Translators.
I shouldn't even be here. That's a great question. Most of the men have started to really get back into the process of actually good crop husbandry processes. So before the genocide, coffee was a cash crop, and it was mostly managed by men. It didn't need a lot of work to do that because they just picked the coffee, stripped it, actually, not selectively picking, just stripped the branch, sold it by weight to a truck that came every other day, and that was it, got cash in hand. The men managed that for reasons we can probably have another call about. The women managed most of the food crops, household, growing the potatoes, the carrots, the beans, bananas, etc., and household. And obviously, you can see that cycle of the priority of that money was not denting, poverty in any way. Fast forward to '94, the consequences of the genocide left a ratio of men to women at about 1 to 4. As expressed earlier, the men were either dead, in prison, or in exile. Women were intentionally left to live, to be the storytellers of the consequences of what happened. Rape was a weapon of war beyond understanding, so they were left to live with scars that are still being healed. That said, when the coffee strategy was being unearthed here nationally, we found the women cutting the trees down and saying, crop, I used to just deal with the food crops. Besides, my kids are hungry, I'm hungry, this coffee's in the way, and it gives me bad memories of those who I've lost anyway. So for them to give coffee a chance is in itself another whole story. But to answer your question more directly, the men are now beginning to do most of the kind of the hard labor of, moving the bags from drying table to warehouse, right. Working in the factories that do the hulling, and also transporting the fertilizer around the country and inputs. So they're still also working from a crop husbandry standpoint with mulching and weeding and participating in all that. But if you look in any cooperative, there's still an 80-20 viewpoint. And some of that is significantly because of the ratio of men to women still in this country, but also the incredible leadership and stance that women have made, not only from the different pockets of corners of the farms in this country, but from the halls of parliament and leadership.
Arthur, can you ask Jackie and Chrissy, what's their dream? What's their dream for their family?
Inzozi yanyu mu muryango, apana muri koperative, mu muryango wanyu.
Inzozi yacu. Inzozi yacu rero ishingiye ku ikawa.
Ishingiye ku ikawa.
Inzozi yacu ni ukugira ikawa niba nayita y'igihangange ifite ubudasa mbega, ariko ikagira ubudasa inatuzamura mu bukungu. Inatuzamura mu bukungu, ukabona ko umuhinzi w'ikawa ari umuntu wigize, atandukanye n'undi muntu udafite ikawa. Niyo nzozi, umuntu ufite ikawa akaba ari we wa muntu ushyira mituweli ku gihe, abanyeshuri bakagerageza kwiga neza kandi heza, akaba ari wa muntu woroye, ufite imirima, ufite ubutunzi n'amafaranga, ufite imitungo n'amafaranga, kandi unasa neza, atari ya mitungo itagira ubusirimu. Inzozi yacu.
Well, oh man. She said that. Well, I asked the question to focus on her dream or their specific dreams for themselves, their homes, and then I made the point to say separate from the cooperative.
Yeah.
And she simply silenced me and said, that's my home, and I can't separate coffee from my dreams for my family. Because our dreams for coffee is to make our coffee the best in the world, that is distinguished from anything else. And we believe that if it's distinguished from anything else, then we believe that it can take care of a lot of other things that are secondary. What is secondary to us, but we believe will be achieved by this primary vision or dream, is being able to be viewed by the locals in this country, the middle class, the upper class, and the world, that the farmer is a force to be reckoned, that the farmer can pay their own health insurance, can feed their own children, can have crop insurance, can pay school fees, and is a self-sustaining profession. Because we know that agriculture is the backbone of this country, but we are not viewed or seen or acknowledged in that way. And that is her dream, to be farmers that are recognized, acknowledged, and seen.
Beautiful.
That's
Jolene, was
great.
there another question?
There was one question, but I almost feel like it was answered with that. We had someone ask if there was one message that these amazing women want us to tell our customers as we sell their coffee, what would it be?
Well, we said, hari abang ikawa, our customers,
Yeah.
bo baza bifuza ntacyo bazi, bashaka kafine ngo bagende ku kazi kabo, ariko rimwe na rimwe barahagarara bakabaza abangaba gushika ariko si ikawa niba, so bo bakakiba shitakama. Ni iki kimwe mu minota imwe umuntu yabwira umukiriya wabo mwebwe mushaka ngo bababwire?
umukiriya njyewe ikintu bumva bamubwira, ikawa kuriya bumva iryoha ni uko ituruka mu murimo ukomeye. Kugira ngo ikawa iboneke ni umurimo ukomeye cyane. Ubwo urayitera kugira ngo uzabone igitunga byibura, icyuya kiba cyaguye. Byibuze yumve ko tuba twakoresheje imbaraga kugira ngo ikawa tuyibone. Bibaye byiza yazadusura yenda akareba uburyo dushyiraho umuhate kugira ngo ikawa iboneke.
Well, she said that what should we tell a customer if the customer had, because I expressed that, hey, most customers have a few minutes and they just want their coffee and they gotta leave. But if they ever paused for a minute and said, oh, by the way, tell me a little bit about this coffee. I said that my colleagues usually have 101 things that they could say, but what, from your opinion, should they say if they could pick one thing? And so she says that if there's one thing I would tell a customer is, short of coming to see me and visiting me during the season, if they could express in any way they can the backbreaking and hard emotionally, physically, psychologically work it is to grow coffee, I would really love for them to get interpretation of that in some way or another. Because it is only then can they appreciate the toil of this incredible product and how it gets to them.
Great. We have maybe there's a little more you want to share. I have a couple of other questions. First, I want to know, do they have a cow?
You got to give context to that question to the audience. But I know what you're saying. Christina, did you, yeah. I'm sure you're not surprised by that answer. Yes, they do, and with a lot of pride.
Yes, well, I knew there would be, and for those on the webinar who don't understand the importance, I guess I'd say in simple terms, cows provide what nutrition, opportunity for fertilizer. They change that the household life, but in seeing what it's done in the community, I'm only an observer. I can't frame up what it's done for them in the community, but I was curious about it. And Arthur, I don't know if in a minute or two you could even give context.
It's a symbol of wealth, and I don't mean monetary wealth. The wealth here is symbolized by how well you look in terms of the fact that you're healthy looking. You know, your skin is clear, your bones are not protruding out of your ribs, and so on. And that is the symbol of wealth.
Yeah.
And a cow provides that kind of nutrition that nothing else does, but it also gives them the ability to sell the byproduct and also give offspring, sell offspring. It's just an incredible symbol of wealth, and it has been since kingdom living.
Mhm. Before we run out of time, we should talk about this coffee. So these women, they're, I'm sure, well aware, Arthur, of this very specific container that we've been long awaiting. I'm sure they know that it's in your hands and it's getting to our hands here. But you've worked with them. You called me up and said, let's talk about this particular container of coffee. Maybe give your view on what you discovered when you cupped it. I'd love to hear from you instead of us on what you felt, what they felt about this particular container, and when we expect to have it, because we're delighted to present this to our roasters.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, first and foremost, I was really honored to be able to get you know, my eyes, my hands, my palate on their coffee. And like I said, it's a rare, it's small, it's exquisite, and so to be able to be one of the fortunate, you know, folks who get your hands on it, you know, is quite a treat. Now we must remember that, you know, their harvest starts in February, March, and this time last year, you know, we were going through a calamity as a, and so I did not know what to expect at the cup level, because obviously they too were going through a lockdown. Now they were deemed essential business, but only a few women would come to the cooperative. Only a few people would transport the coffee to the mill. There was a lot of opportunity for uh, you know, risk for quality to be compromised, and production, of course. So to know that they came out whole from a production standpoint, and met their expectations, at least with the banks and everything that they had projected from a loan standpoint, was outstanding. But what was even more hats off was the cup quality. And uh, the cup quality was outstanding. And you know, the cyclical process of coffee, you know, year over year, you've got a great cup, and then another year, you know, it's kind of like mediocre. Production is down, and the tree is going through a rebirth process. But last year I tasted their coffee, and again this year I did, and it just got better. I just, hands down, it got better. And just clean coffee, the usual suspects of just smooth body with a medium acidity, just very rounded, very floral, just very sweet lemon acid, and just lingers. You know, it lingered, and as it cools too, it just morphed into something else that was just fascinating. And so I had 2 boxes to bring, but one of them was compromised, and so I tried my best to get it as well. But I cupped it and cupped it, you know, over and over, about 2 weeks while I was here. Resorted it, took it back, re-cleaned it. It just didn't meet the bar. But with this last one that I was able to bring, I just couldn't be more proud of it. And,
yep. Well, we only have a minute left, and I'll let you have any closing words. I would like to let the women know, Chrissy and Jackie, but all of the participants in the cooperative, that one, we're honored to receive the coffee, and it's because of the quality. They need to know, they take a lot of pride in making sure it's because of the quality of the coffee, not because it's an act of feeling sorry for them. They've earned this. It's beautiful coffee. They've done a remarkable job. We have seen the hard work they do in picking the cherries off of their trees. And we hope that we can bring this coffee to the marketplace, and our future business enables them to get more trees. So pass that message to them. We're really honored. And then any closing words from the women would be delightful.
tugiye kurangiza ariko yashaka kubanza kubabwira ngo mumenye yuko nubwo bigushimisha cyane kumva aho muvuye, aho muturutse, ukuntu muvunitse, byabaye muri iki gihugu n'icyo mugezeho, ngo ariko ashaka ngo mumenye nabo ngo ntabwo tuguriye ikawa kubera ibyo ngibyo, tuguriye ikawa kubera muyishyiramo, muyivunikira ko kandi biragaragara muri karite yayo. Niyo mpamvu bayishima cyane, bazongera bayigure menshi, kandi umenye yuko ngo ntabwo ngo bayigura ngo babagire imbabazi, kuko byabababaza nabi. Karite iragaragara ko mubishyiramo rwose.
All right. Any last comments from the ladies, Arthur?
Mutari bagenda hari icyo mushaka kubabwira mutavuze, cyangwa kongeraho, cyangwa ni gusezera, cyangwa ni gushima, simbizi.
Murakoze, ntabwo twabura icyo twongeraho. By'umwihariko twanabashimira natwe nk'abantu bifuje ko twaganira turebana kugira ngo tugire ibyifuzo tubaha, nk'abantu bahinga ikawa n'abaguzi bayigura, kugira ngo nabo babone ubusobanuro bw'abo bantu babasha kubahereza iyo kawa ifite ubwiza bumeze gutyo. Icyo ni ikintu twabashimira kigaragaza ko batuzirikana. Natwe rero nibwo turashobora gushyiramo imbaraga kugira ngo tuyikore kandi umusaruro wiyongere, kandi karite nibura ive aho yari irengeye kikiri hejuru.
She said she doesn't know what else she can add to this, but she just wants to express gratitude. She says that, she's never experienced a connection like this. People want to get online and meet them face to face and talk beyond just a phone call, and to visualize who they are and to see them means a lot. Acknowledgement. And then she also says that she's grateful for the fact that you're interested in their coffee.
Yes.
She says that for us, we have absolutely no she says they have no problem with continuing over year to grow the best coffee. That is already a standing mission for them. But they always like to tell folks that they talk to buy their coffee is that trust us and build true relationships with us. What can be grown can be repeated, but if you can repeat your relationship with them is what keeps it going.
Very good. Well, we're graced by the opportunity. Thank you for the time. I could talk to the women for days. Oh, do you have more comment?
Jackie wants to say goodbye as well.
Okay.
Reka nanjye mbashimire. Burya kugira ngo iyi kawa igire agaciro ni ku bwa twembi, ari twe tuyihinga, ari n'umuguzi wacu. Ni ukuvuga ngo tuyihinze ntayigure, mu by'ukuri icyo twari tuyitegerejeho ntabwo twakibona. Niyo mpamvu tubashimiye, kandi nk'uko twabivuze ko ikawa ituvuna, ngira ngo nabo babivuze ko byibura hari uburyo babyumvamo, ariyo mpamvu bayitugurira. Uwo muhate turawukomeza, kandi tubashimiye rwose kuba bemeye ko bazongera bakayitugurira. Turifuza ko rwose badushimira abigeraho bose, kandi rwose baryoherwe. Barakoze.
Jackie says she'd like to pass on a message to the customers through you to say thank you, to enjoy the product, give feedback, and that is how that they will continue to also improve. Not drink their coffee as much as you do, but the more they hear about how it is treating them, how they feel about it when they drink it, they would like to know as much as they can so that they can get. And thank you for the relationship as well.
Yes. Arthur, we'll send some pictures of our roasters at the final, in the cup, you know, where we have the customers enjoying it, and you can pass it to the ladies of the co-op. Please, if you would, I'd love a picture of Jackie and Chrissy at their farm. I don't know if you have time, but you're going to be there for a little bit more. But
Yeah.
it'd mean a lot to us.
Great.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. All of you couldn't see. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good evening.
All right. That'll conclude our webinar today. Thank you for joining, and we say goodbye to our friends in Rwanda.